Hey everyone, it's Marcus. Today we're going to talk about Blue Isle Studios' response to Slender Man in Dead by Daylight. Also found a lot of new information while researching to help us understand the Slender Man licensing forefront. So in this video, we're going to go over the response by Blue Isle Studios and sort of start the discussion of the possibility of Slender Man in DBD with respect to the licensing status of Slender Man. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more content like this. I'm also live on Twitch right now streaming Dead by Daylight, link for that in the description below. This news actually fully comes from my Discord server. Shameplicity said this: I got a response from Blue Isle Studios, the devs behind Slender the Arrival, regarding my question to them about collaborating with Behavior to add Slenderman as a killer at some point down the line. We had been talking about my Slenderman cosplay already via Instagram DM, so I took a chance to ask. I'll send the screenshots of the brief convo. And this is actually something that's been posted in Discord now, so it's in public places, so this is technically now public information. Shameplicity said, well, I'm a huge Slenderman fan. Obviously, I'm also a very big fan of Dead by Daylight. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the game, and I understand you might not be able to answer this question, but it has been my dream for a long time to have Slenderman as a killer among the roster of iconic killers in that game. I would simply melt. My question is, would y'all ever be interested in collaborating with Behavior, the developers of Dead by Daylight, to bring Slenderman into Dead by Daylight as a killer? I'd love to hear your thoughts, or at least as much as you're able to share. And Blue Isle Studios says, this is something unfortunately that we cannot discuss. I do hope you understand. So that's actually their official response as of yesterday for Slenderman in Dead by Daylight, which people thought that was kind of interesting for a couple of reasons. Last year, they actually did acknowledge Slenderman in DBD. Somebody asked Slender the Arrival, would Slender ever make it into Dead by Daylight? And the official Slender the Arrival Twitter quote tweeted this and said, he's been watching you since day one. Somebody said to Slender the Arrival, we totally need a sequel, and they responded, spooky idea. And we did see a sequel. We saw a remastered version of Slender the Arrival, and there's actually a new co-op multiplayer game that we're going to talk about later in this video that's in the works. So in the second tweet down below, Slender the Arrival appears to be teasing the idea of a sequel. So people were wondering, in the first tweet, were they somehow teasing a Dead by Daylight chapter? Just simply responding to the tweet in this way, could that actually be teasing a Dead by Daylight chapter just as they were teasing a sequel? They can really pick and choose what they decide to quote tweet. Going back to the most recent response from Blue Isle Studios in regards to Slenderman in DBD, it doesn't really give much information, but it is interesting to see Blue Isle Studios officially say this. People in my Discord were talking and they said, while this response was honestly expected, I think it's noteworthy for a few reasons that may or may not hold any validity. One, if they miraculously did have something in the works with Behavior, then they'd obviously be under an NDA as to not discuss anything. This could explain their response. Two, this being the more likely reason, they probably can't casually discuss potential licensing deals with random Slender DBD fans on Instagram, even if nothing has ever been discussed with Behavior on their end. And Slenderman Worshipper from my Twitch community said, or the third option is they can't say anything because they're currently trying to make a deal with Behavior. These are some interesting thoughts and ideas from people who are closely following the licensing situation for Slenderman. It was announced last year on October 3rd, 2023, Slenderman's Unreal Engine 5 revival is adding what fans have been wanting for 10 years, multiplayer. There's upcoming content through Blue Isle Studios in the Slenderman franchise to create a single or multiplayer experiences in online scenarios using the same tools as featured in the 10-year anniversary update, including AI, environment art, sound effects, and most everything used by Blue Isle Studios designers. And this comes from the press release from Blue Isle. The Slender the Arrival devs talked about a multiplayer and modding in the anniversary update. A Blue Isle Studios dev talked more about how multiplayer and modding will work in Slender the Arrival's 10-year anniversary update. Frank from Blue Isle Studios identified how a creative Slender sandbox fed into the development of horror multiplayer co-op. Slender the Arrival has had a dedicated fanbase over the past 10 years, and we really feel that the fanbase would love to have a sandbox for their own creations within the mythos that is officially sanctioned by Slenderman creators. Currently, the game is only single player, and we wanted to make sure that the creation of a sandbox included the ability for a multiplayer experience. They also talked extensively about Slenderman's AI capabilities, kind of implying that it's going to be a multiplayer co-op where nobody can actually play as Slenderman. And the fact that no one's able to play as Slenderman or the proxies, they can only kind of play against the AI Slenderman and proxies, is making people wonder, are they saving this feature for a Dead by Daylight chapter? They're introducing a Slenderman multiplayer co-op, which could actually give people the ability to play as Slenderman. That, on top of the fact that the Slenderman 15-year anniversary is coming this summer, is making people wonder if there's a Slenderman chapter slated for Dead by Daylight. And could this most recent response from Blue Isle Studios kind of hint towards the fact that we would be getting a Slenderman in Dead by Daylight chapter within the next year? Well, I did more research in regards to the licensing for Slenderman. 2 years ago, someone was actually making a Slenderman game, and they posted on Reddit, we're currently making a game on Slenderman and we couldn't contact the copyright holders for the rights. Will it be safe to make without facing any issues? And the top comment came from Brandon D. Santos. Slenderman is not copyright free, unfortunately. Blue Isle Studios owns Slenderman in Canada. Mythology Holdings, formerly Mythology Entertainment, owns the character rights in the United States. As someone who has desperately tried to get clearance to use Slenderman in my own video game projects, I must inform you that none of these organizations are easy to get a hold of. Luckily, as you don't profit off using the character, they should be okay with you creating and distributing freeware games. So I was like, what exactly does that mean for Slender Man to be owned by Blue Isle Studio in Canada and to be owned by Mythology Holdings in the US? And how was Slender the Arrival able to update their game and announce a multiplayer co-op given that status of the license? So I went to the Canadian copyright database for more answers, and I found the title Slender Man, and there's a copyright registered to Mythology Entertainment according to the Canadian copyright database. And you can see right here that Sony Pictures Entertainment is listed as the agent. In the context of copyrighted intellectual property, agent typically refers to an individual or entity that acts on behalf of the copyright owner to manage and handle various aspects of copyright related matters. This can include licensing, negotiations, enforcement of copyright, and other administrative tasks. The agent serves as a representative of the copyright owner in legal business and business matters related to the copyrighted work. So this means that it's likely that Mythology Entertainment, which actually became Mythology Holdings, which we covered in a previous video, actually is the owner of the property. So I contacted this Reddit user to get more clarification on this to see if Blue Isle Studios had any licensing power regarding the Slender Man IP. I was able to get a hold of them on very short notice, and they told me that they received a cease and desist letter from Mythology once they were trying to make their own Slender Man game. They also said while they were developing their own personal Slender Man game, they received an email from Blue Isle Studios. In this email, Blue Isle Studios stated that they could not give this person the go-ahead to continue developing the game. This is an excerpt that comes directly from the cease and desist letter. As stated above, producers and Gems are developing the picture, and the producer owns the exclusive rights in and to the character. As such, including the character in any competing work would infringe on the producer's exclusive rights, and any further use of the character by developers is likely to create confusion in the marketplace. And here producer refers to Victor Surge, Gems is Screen Gems or Sony Pictures, and the character is Slender Man. So we can see that Sony here is exercising the responsibility as the licensing agents for Mythology Holdings property Slender Man. So that being said, it's unclear how in the know Blue Isle Studios would be if there's a Slender Man deal happening behind the scenes at Behavior Interactive right now. But we do know that Blue Isle Studios has clearance from Victor Surge to develop the game Slender the Arrival. And in fact, on the Canadian copyright database, they do own the rights to the game itself. They're actually listed as the owner of the property Slender the Arrival. First of all, the Canadian copyright database seems to yield more information than the US copyright database. Like it seems like Slender Man, the title, is owned by Mythology Entertainment with the licensing agent Sony Pictures. But it also seems plausible that there's a version of Slender Man owned by Blue Isle Studios in Slender the Arrival. But the fact that Blue Isle Studios was not able to give this person the green light for developing their Slender Man game kind of suggests that Blue Isle Studios is powerless to licensing the property. So although Blue Isle Studios is in close contact with Victor Surge, it doesn't seem like they have any licensing power for the IP Slender Man. But if Victor Surge were to know about a Slender Man Dead by Daylight licensing deal, it might be advisable to make Blue Isle Studios develop a co-op multiplayer game where Slender Man is not a playable character. This would be a clear and obvious way to distinguish the different games. What do you think about all this? Let me know in the comment section below. There's definitely nothing absolute about Slender Man joining DBD, but it does seem like a possibility based on the licensing status of the IP. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you want to stay up to date with this ever-changing situation. And reminder, I'm also live on Twitch right now streaming Dead by Daylight, link for that in the description below. That does it for this video. Goodbye.